Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Oneness Junkie podcast, hosted by me, Lydia Smith, a self-proclaimed Oneness Junkie. Oneness Junkie is a place to be inspired, encouraged, and supported. Learn from the individuals who are working to make the world a better place. Let's meet today's guest. Hello, everybody. This is Lydia. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to Douglas Bentley. Hi, Douglas.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here with me.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me onto your show.
Yes, I look forward not only to getting to know you better, but also for the audience to understand what you have available and what you're offering them. But before we get started, I like to share with people how I meet my guests, whether I know them or not. And then I'll have Douglas introduce himself. Okay. So I don't remember what year it was. Probably, I'm going to guess, was I right when I said like 2007, 2008? Is that when maybe you came to Unity of Houston?
So. Maybe 2010, I imagine.
Okay. Oh, later. Okay. 2010. Yep. So, because I know I made the t-shirt in 2009, so I kind of base everything based on oneness, like based on when I created that t-shirt. So basically, as some of y'all have heard before, because I've mentioned it in my intro, that I had been a part and enjoyed the benefits of being in a community called Unity of Houston, where they taught unity, love, and oneness, or they teach it. They still do. And that was like the first time I had really heard about oneness. And Douglas came as a speaker, and I think they were doing a workshop or something. You probably were coming for a workshop. And so that's where I learned of Douglas for the first time and heard his story. Subsequently after that, just after some time, ended up following him or connecting with him through Facebook. So we've been connected through Facebook, but we don't really know each other. And he's got a lot of friends on Facebook. So, I was just one of probably 5,000 of them or more. And so when I created this podcast in November, I was just thinking, Douglas is someone who's always been about oneness to me in his, in my experience of him. And I wanted to invite him to share about his story and his journey, and also like what he's up to right now and how he's continuing his work out there in the world of spreading a positive message of oneness. So Douglas, do you want to introduce yourself and maybe go back to kind of how it all started and where you are today?
Yeah. So I'm from Washington, D.C. area, born and raised. And I think it was like somehow in my early 20s, I got into a little bit of meditation, and I found it very frustrating. I had a friend who taught me meditation, and he would always explain how much bliss he was in. He would always say, "Oh my God, my last night meditation, such bliss was there, all these lights, all this energy." And I remember just being very confused, because every time I sat down to meditate, I just felt a lot of pain. And it just felt like I was broken inside. And I had no idea what that was, why it was there. And I have no idea how to get rid of it. And so I quickly kind of stopped meditating. And, but I was curious in the whole spiritual stuff. And this was back in 2004, 2005. So there just wasn't such massive resources on the internet. And I was just on some forum looking up something, maybe about the third eye or something like that. I don't know. I just, whatever
you were coming across.
Yeah. And I came across a picture of this saint or this sage. They call him an avatar from India that's alive. And it was very interesting when I saw a picture of him, because I suddenly recognized that I actually had a dream with him in my high school years that was enormously profound and life-changing to me. And I was very shocked. My God, this is that being that I had this very, very profound dream with.
Wow.
When I was a teenager, that was like a life-changing experience. And I looked at his photo and looked into his eyes, and I'm a real grounded, down-to-earth person. I was in my office in DC as a web designer. I'm a very practical person, but I looked into his eyes, and this huge amount of energy came out of it and struck me. And I literally went into almost nearly a breathless state of consciousness with my eyes rolled back for 45 minutes.
Wow. Was anybody there to see it, or were you by yourself?
I was by myself. I had my
Okay.
own private office, and but I was out, and I just had this very profound experience that I saw what the choice of incarnation. And I just knew, I mean, these are all things that were very new to me. This wasn't like I had any of these thoughts before this moment. I just was shown in that experience that humanity is undergoing a massive evolution in consciousness right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that I have consciously chose to help facilitate and be a part of that. And that my entire life work is a work of growing myself and inspiring and helping others to do the same. So it was very profound. And it was completely like the light switch went on. And I jumped on a plane and I went and met this master.
Wow.
And it was a very profound instant recognition kind of thing.
Right. And this was in India, right?
Yeah, this was in India. And I think, I mean, like a long story short, I basically said, I want to live here and be a monk, and ended up being yes. And I stayed there for 10 years learning from this profound being.
Yeah.
And the entire principles that he had was just, it's not natural to feel separate from anything. And that was like the start of it. And so if I could sum up in a nutshell what that 10 years looked like, it was a very profound journey of self-healing. It was a profound journey of turning over every stone within and healing whatever is asking to be finally felt and embraced and healed. And at a certain point, my teacher just looked at me and said, you're ready to do your thing now. And I had at that point found a partner, my wife, and she's also very spiritually inclined. I was very lucky to have met somebody like this. And my teacher just said, it's time for you to go home and do your own thing. And 4 years ago, we came back to the States and we founded Sacred Wisdom School. And it's just a space for us to just share our journeys with people, to inspire them on their journeys. And it's been a real blast being able to help people and work with people. It feels very correct in our lives. So
that's great. I like to ask the questions that people are kind of curious about. Like, and if I ask you something that I don't know you very well, so if I ask you something that you want to answer, you have the right to say, I'm not comfortable with that. But when you move to India, I mean, it's a big difference from the comforts of the United States to moving to that hot climate with no air condition. I mean, were you in a situation where, you know, it was like also challenging to your physical body while you were going through that 10 years?
Yeah, I was very fortunate that they always kept me in a room with an air conditioner. they understood that I am not from that climate.
Yeah,
but
I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, but there's been several times literally that you faint because in the dead of their summer, which is around May, the temperatures are so extreme that you're just walking outside and you just sort of open your eyes and you realize you've been on the ground for several minutes.
I know. I mean, I couldn't do it. Like, that's one of the things that, well, first of all, I don't want to be in that much of an uncomfortable environment. So I'm not drawn to that. I like comfort. I like cozy. I like, and I don't think I'm here in this life to suffer. So I don't create that situation for myself. But my sister did, I guess, felt like she was in this lifetime to suffer. And she moved to Cambodia for a year and she was so hot. She hated it. The environment's really challenging. So, I mean, I totally respect your 10 years of, choosing that for your life, for your personal evolution. Everybody evolves in different ways. And that was your guidance, right? That was what you were guided to do. So I totally want to honor that. So you were talking about the school and helping people to evolve. Would you go a little bit into maybe what you feel like the specialty, if anyone who's listening is kind of curious about the school, tell us a little bit more about what are you teaching there at the school?
I think there's probably several million people, maybe a lot more that I don't know exactly, but I think there's several millions of people that are very consciously and very outwardly a part of spirituality. Like they're on their path. It's a part of their life and they're growing. And I realize on the journey with working with people as well as my own journey, that there's this like middle part. There's like this middle stage of the journey that's like enormously confusing, because in spirituality, the first part of the journey is incredibly fun and awesome. In fact, it's anything less than miraculous. You immediately find some cool spiritual name. You buy all the mala beads you possibly can buy. Throw away your old outfits and you get all linen, rugged linen outfits that look so beautiful. You start seeing the synchronicities in life, and you discover there's higher intelligence. Call it whatever you want, relate to it in any way. You love incense. Your house reeks of incense, basically. You exchange your cigarettes for incense sticks. So all of this is the first stage for most people, right? Not to say it has to be this. It's just
right. There's so many different paths. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But there's a stage of celebrating that you're ready for that big change, and you're jumping in, and so many great things happen in that stage. Then comes a stage a little bit later when all of the fireworks seem to fade off. It's sort of like a lull that happens. And this is a very challenging stage for people, because they realize, wow, yeah, I've grown some, but I just thought I'd walk right into enlightenment, whatever that is. I just thought that I just have to stick with whatever path I'm on, follow whatever teacher I'm following, chant whatever mantra I want to chant, and it's just going to happen. I just got to hold out until that great day of transformation. And the real issue that we struggle with is we're trying to drive the car the incorrect way, like we've always been our entire life. And we keep thinking that as long as we're somehow saying we're driving the car, as long as we're somehow heading somewhere, that it will all change. But the reality is that what if the way you were driving the car, as an analogy, is the actual problem? What if you have to do things entirely different? And this is a really hard adjustment for most people who are on the spiritual path, because let's say you go to a retreat somewhere. Let us say you go down to the Amazon rainforest and you drink ayahuasca, or you go off to India and undergo a spiritual retreat. Both of them are going to produce, most likely, a very profound state in you. You're going to just feel somehow flowered and altered. And if you're not understanding why you feel that way, and you come back home, then all of a sudden you kind of go back to the way you've always operated your life. You go back to a certain thing that causes all the problems. And what that certain thing is, and what I'm really trying to get at the heart of, is that a person at a certain point in the journey has to realize being engulfed and tossed and turned in the pressure of thought all day long causes all the fear, stress, anxiety, and a sense of feeling separate from everything. And when you go have ayahuasca, or you go to India, go someplace, most of the time they produce what you would call a heart-opening experience. It produces a space inside of you that isn't gripped by the mind, a space where you're not actually so concerned about yesterday or tomorrow, and you're sort of exploring naturally the space of the present moment from a place of beingness. And so it's very profound. It's life-changing. But then you go home, and if you're unconscious about it, you just jump right back into the old conditionings of being completely engulfed in the mind and thought. And you leave behind that present moment, and you leave behind the space of the heart. And so it takes a person so many years to go back and forth in and out of that, to even recognize there were two different things, to recognize that you can completely operate and live from a space of vast being present, beingness, without the grip of thought. And you can function and you're alive. Because the mind would say, without me, who are you? You're nobody. So people are sort of stuck at that stage. And I would say that that's something that's grabbed me for a long time. At a certain point, I brought my entire focus and priority of my life. I suddenly realized the only thing that's most important about my internal journey and well-being is to move completely, totally, unconditionally into the heart. I must learn to live in the vastness of being. I must learn to shed the unconscious resisting. I must learn to feel each moment as opposed to thinking. And as I slowly and painfully took that journey, which it's a journey of every moment you're in. It's not a journey that you try and then someday you wait for something else. It is a complete commitment of being present. It became easier and easier. And my heart slowly healed and it opened and it flowered. Suddenly I started feeling actual love there for the first time in my life that I can remember. Suddenly knowingness, intuition, feeling connected to all of life, the illusion of separateness from the divine, that wall fell. And everything I was searching for in spirituality, I was frantically searching for in my mind to attain or achieve or wait for, or be upset that it hasn't happened, was all completely found when the heart softened out of resistance and I soaked in its beingness. So I would say that for Sacred Wisdom School, or for both myself and my wife, and whatever work we do, although we offer so many different things that can help people in different ways, I would say the core engine is helping a person learn the art of abiding in their hearts moment by moment and understanding what that means and understanding the journey of self-healing, because self-healing awaits you when you go into the heart. You have to understand that it may not always feel bliss. And if it doesn't feel bliss, it's asking to be felt, to be healed. So I would have to say that our work on one very big level is helping a person awaken into the heart, because I believe that is the natural progression after the fireworks of spirituality in the mind. The mind's excitement fades off. Then a person has to learn to jump out of the mind into the heart. And it's very, very confusing. But when a person gets the hang of it, they can never go back. It makes no sense to go back, actually. So that's what I think we focus on in a big way.
And so what are you doing? You're providing retreats. How are you doing that?
Right now, because of COVID, we have all online courses. So we do these 6-week online courses, and we have, I think, a total of 6 courses that address different spheres of the journey of spiritual awakening, and like one that's coming up. I don't know when this podcast would be live, but in the one at the end of January, it's starting. It's a course on relationship. And it's not like, here's how to fix a relationship, or here's how to attract your soulmate relationship.
Right.
It's completely owning the fact that whatever's going on inside of you is for you to heal, and that the entire universe is mirroring your internal state.
Yeah.
So it's taking total responsibility and it's from a place of empowerment, So that's one example of how we do it. We do offer in-person retreats, and we'll be starting up again. And we also work with people a lot, actually, with healing sessions. So people come actually to where our house is. We travel as well and do literally healing sessions with people for emotional healing. Not that we like lay our hands on them, they get healed, nothing like that. We hold space and help support them to release and and go through what they need to go through
Yeah.
to get things out. And we found that work to be very, very profound, because there's a lot of people, for a lot of us, we keep everything stuck inside. And when we have a chance in a sacred enough environment to just let go finally, it can really change a person's life, So
Yeah, I agree. And I know that from my own personal experience. And I like to always kind of throw in, a real world, experience so people can connect to it, not just talk about how it happens, but to give people something to really grab onto. But I personally have been working through getting some lingering stuck energy cleared, and found some soul attachment is what they called it, work that a friend of mine and I worked on. And I mean, it was powerful. Like, I'll just give you one example of, as we were scanning the body, because it was a participation of me and the healer person. He would ask me, like, well, where do you feel it next? And I would say, like, in my feet, and then we would, well, what does that feel like? And then I was like, well, I have to support myself and it feels why, whatever. So the one that was really amazing that I got to was that as in this lifetime, I chose not to have children, primarily only because I never found the person that I felt like I wanted to create that life with. And so whether it was intentional or unconscious or conscious, it doesn't matter. It's what my experience was. So I had some stuck energy around the fact that I didn't do that. And, I consciously know I'm okay. I mean, I chose not to have kids, but from a subconscious level, there's some desires of the heart that might have one have experienced birthing children or whatever. And so I didn't realize there was some stuck energy about it, but it came up. And then what I was guided to understand about that is that I not having children stopped the lineage of ancestral trauma to be continued in my lineage. So therefore I felt actually very honored that my soul journey was to be the one to stop the 5,000 years of ancestral trauma passing through. And so in that regard, I was able to honor myself for the role that I played for all the ancestors before me, and then clear the energy and let it go and not have it living inside of me any longer. So I totally agree that our healing comes from releasing the energy that lives inside our bodies, because then you create that space in yourself for more enlightenment. Right. And then, like, I just have become like this powerful manifester once I continue to clear my space, my healing, and I'm more connected to source. There's more of source running through me now that the stuck energy is not in there blocking it. Right. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think just in general, when you see a person, and or if you just can reflect in yourself, the great question I asked myself at a certain point, like, I'm not happy. Like, I feel a lot of fear. I feel very isolated. I feel like no one really gets me. And maybe the bottom line is I don't feel love. I don't feel loved. I don't know when that's going to show up in my life. I don't know if I need to find the perfect partner, but I don't feel whole and complete inside. And I think to a person who can just simply awaken to just be honest enough with themselves that these things are going on, actually is a very great kind of person. It takes a lot for a person to actually just take inventory inside, to say, where am I actually at right now? And most people, they gloss it over because they don't know what to deal with it, or they're somehow embarrassed by it. They say, well, I've been on spirituality for 15 years and yeah, I'm working through it. I mean, that's nothing, as opposed to stopping completely dead in your tracks and saying, in the moment I'm in, what's going on? And when a person can learn that simple thing about stopping and being completely honest and looking at something objectively, just this is happening. This is there. Not from a place of judging it, That's the real problem. Not from a place of immediately turning away or trying to stop it. Those are all things that happen very unconsciously. We say, I'm not feeling that well. Let's go have a drink. Let's get out of here.
Right.
Whatever that
distraction.
is. Yeah. So, and I would have to say that it takes a lot of growth and maturity to finally come to a place where you stop either thinking you're enlightened or you stop trying to head towards some enlightenment. You're seeking it. When you can finally just stop and say, the only thing that matters right now is the moment I'm in and what's going on inside myself that I'm not wanting to feel and experience. What is it that I am struggling with? And so when a person gets to that stage, they finally start realizing, I'm not happy and I want to be happy. What does that look like? It's a big question. And that question, the answer to it, at least for me, was I need to heal the pain inside. And so that started this entire journey for me where I said, you know what? Maybe someday I become enlightened. Maybe someday I become awakened. Maybe someday I can walk on water. I don't know. But in this moment right now, I have to address, for the first time in my life, I have to address staying with this pain and feeling it deeply and allowing it to finally release. And I found that if I just did that simple thing, and it's not simple in the sense that it's uncomfortable. It's not something I want to do. But as I did that simple thing, I have to plug in my laptop 1 second. As I did that one simple thing, it led to a journey of taking away all my stress and pressure around my spiritual growth. Before, I was measuring everything. I was learning so much. I had so many theories of how the whole universe worked and where I was amongst everything. Wanted to know all my past lives, all this stuff that somehow makes you great.
Yeah, like the technical side of it.
Yeah, just somehow trying to find meaning, and significance. And there's nothing wrong with significance, just the habit of the mind to hold on to something.
Yeah,
and when I finally
make meaning from it.
Yeah. When I finally just put down everything and just said, the only thing I care about is healing what's in front of me inside right now. And I made that my point of meditation, that my focus. And as I did that, layer after layer, day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year, the layers came off. And as they slowly came off, I just slowly started feeling lighter, more grounded, more practical, more human. But I started feeling whole again. I suddenly, the need to be loved externally fell away. The need for significance externally fell away. The need for craving fell away, to become something. It all started falling away. I have them. All these things, they'll come up and go through me, at certain moments. But it's not a gripping, demanding need that steers my life like before. Before, it was very important to have a name. Before, it was very, very important to be recognized and honored and loved. All these things were utterly important to me.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, they all faded away. And what was left was the only thing that feels important to me is how vastly I can be in a softened heart, basking in my own beingness, being absorbed in the silence. And as that became my priority, you get completely absorbed. And the illusion, it's just an illusion, it's a trick of the mind, the illusion of feeling separate from reality completely dissolved. You don't feel separate from anything, actually. You're not separate from anything, but it's an experiential level. It's not a philosophy to follow. It's literally in the silence, you discover that you, God, and life are the same singular experience. And you bask in it, you soak in it, you're in awe in it. So you're no longer looking for meaning in anything. You don't care about the analysis of the mind when you have an experience. The only thing you appreciate is that singular truth, that you are eternity itself, experiencing time and space, which is also eternity itself. You're just simply, you are the silent beingness. You're that which silently watches. And so it's like I found home, and it wasn't anything extraordinary, but it was everything I was searching for.
Yeah.
It was the clarity of all reality.
I understand. Yeah. This is a good segue. You've just led me up to a question I wanted to ask you, but it was perfect. You just described, oneness, and I want you to share with the listeners, because you went to the study of oneness, to explain from your perspective what oneness means and what it's all about, because everyone's perspective is a little different. So tell me, did y'all get taught something, or did you become aware of something? Did it become embodied like you just described?
Yeah, I would say that the unique thing of my teacher was he embodied that state. And I was always very curious about that, and it never really made sense to me at all.
In the beginning. Yeah.
And at a certain moment, at a rock bottom moment, I think everything comes in stages, but I think one very critical stage that happened was I was going through a complete and utter psychological crash. I was going through something, my whole world as I perceived it was collapsing. That's the best way to say it. It was everything that meant something to me, everything that I held on to that gave me security was all ripped from underneath me. Not in any kind of cruel way. It was like the design of life itself to do this. And it happened very fast. And I remember I was at my parents' house back from India, and I was just laying in bed for 3 days. 3 days because I couldn't move. I was in such grip of utter fear and pain and hurt. It was horrendous. I mean, the only word is so horrendous that you just lay there, face planted into the mattress for 3 days. That's how it was. And I couldn't even surrender. There was nothing. I was basically just in the worst space I've ever been in my life. And I didn't even want to pray. It was like a prayer. Nothing made any sense. It was just an egg frying on a frying pan. And at the end of the third day, I remember waking up in the morning and just laying there and just blank in total misery. There was an actual pop. It was an actual sound that happened in my head. An actual pop happened in my head. And the only thing I can describe, possibly way to describe this, is it was as though consciousness or awareness separated from the body and mind about 5 inches. It felt like it was like this absolute declutchment that took place. And it was so interesting because it happened and there was no celebration of it at all. It happened. The body stood up, took a shower, put its clothes on, jumped in the car, drove, and continued about the day without even the slightest bit of care that it was just in misery for 3 days. And something very, very extraordinary just took place. It was like a changeover took place. And it wasn't the end of the journey. It was just this moment that now awareness it felt as though it was like something that happened in my brain. It's like awareness was separate from the activity of the mind. And that was when I awoken at that moment. I clearly experienced as a permanent experience at that point that I am the silence that watches. I'm the infinite. That was just the only experience. And I still felt very encased in the body, but I was no longer the struggle of the mind. Fear was still there. Pains and hurts were still there. All sorts of things were still there within the mind. It's just that I was something different watching it. And at a certain point, several years later, there was another moment that took place where I had a complete and utter psychological death. It was something very, very extreme. And And it's like where you think you're going to die, but instead of dying, you become all of creation. You become everything. And so that threshold of that which thinks it's separate, crossing into the lack of separateness, the illusions dissolving, is terrifying. So it's a very terrifying experience. And then I was pushed. And in that state, I it's like a veil just dropped. I don't have any confusion about the oneness of life. It's so practical and grounded and so natural. It's hard to understand that I wasn't experiencing this before. So for me, when I look at anything, I only understand that I'm looking at the one. When I look inside myself, I only see that being. When I look at you or anything else, it's only that being. I am that being. So for me, God, life, and myself are one experience. That's the best way to say it, There's no, and the mind is still there. The mind has its fears, its charges, gets its triggers, but all of it just simply doesn't matter in a big way. I'm not confused about life and death, all these things. None of it matters anymore. There's just
because you're connected. You're connected to source.
Yeah. So for me, the answer to your question is, oneness can be a concept, but I think it's truly meant. I think as a person naturally grows, it becomes a natural experience, and you only realize that is the natural experience. It was just that for so many reasons, the mind has had the grip on you, and you're caught up in a big lie. That's the best way to say it. Right. And as that lie fades off, you just return to the singular truth of the universe. That there's only one, and you are that.
Yeah, and you. So now you embody it. That's the term you used earlier, like your teacher did. As you recognized your teacher, but now that's you embodying it as well, right?
Yeah. Well, the strange part about it is, from this space, it's only clear that everybody embodies it. And so it's only
but you realize you embody it, right? Most people don't realize they embody
right. And that's the sadness of it. You realize like, wow, it's right there. It's nothing something extraordinary, but a person has to move into the heart and has to heal a little bit, and the natural processes open up to where you start seeing the truth of things.
Right. And when people say the term awakening, that's basically what it is, when you awaken to your own divinity, right?
Yeah. For me, if I could define awakening, it is the ability to be completely present in a space of silent beingness. So any moment a person is completely settled in the heart with no resistance and soaking in that silent seeing and beingness inside, that's the space of enlightenment or awakening. Now, anybody can go there, but it takes a certain moment for a person to say, it's extremely important. It's a top priority for me to stay there. And I think that when a person I think when a person takes that decision, I feel as though they've really started their true path. Like they're on their path in the heart, and there's no end to it. So I always watch the whole journey continue. I haven't seen any kind of end point for myself at all. It's just that there was certain milestones that did happen. And when I look back, they're like game changers when they take place. And I imagine there'll only be many more. So I can't say it's a final thing at all. It's just that I'm not confused anymore. I don't have a sense of there's a separate being, separate from everything else. That part's not there,
I get it. I love that from your perspective, you call it a game changer. I was going to tell you earlier when you were talking that I call that switches are being flipped, from off to on, it's just an analogy that, for me, there's a shift. And I actually had one. I mean, I have them, I've been on this personally, I've been on this journey since 1992. When I was 22 years old is when I started to try to find the meaning of my life. And so that I had like a tragic event that happened, and then it kind of set me on the inquiry, like questioning, what are we here for? And so I started to like search, but over time I can pull out, oh, in 1998, this happened. And then something, like 10 years, and then something big happened. And then, even recently, because I put a focus on it, like I've had some big switches flipping, but that's also part of what's going on in the global consciousness, right? Like there's a lot. And I've been using the analogy, like, we were kernels of corn, and a kernel of corn looks completely different than the expression of popcorn once it's popped, right? So the popcorn, the white popcorn that you eat, does not look anything like the kernel. And so that's like a distinction, other than everyone always uses the caterpillar transforming into the butterfly, right? But I was looking for like another analogy. And so popcorn, came to mind that I've been using lately. But this is a good segue for talking about, because you were saying in your description, you still get angry and you still get challenged, and, your particular class coming up is on relationships. So let's segue into a little bit, because we have about 10 or so more minutes. Let's talk a little bit about relationships and like I love what this conversation is about. It's about how to live every day in this experience of the awakening experience. Okay. So it's easy when you're the kernel and you're living your life the way you know to live it. But when you become the popcorn, how do you stay in this dynamic of being awakened while have wives and children and boyfriends and girlfriends and bosses and relationships, so really your class, from my understanding, it's not just love relationships, it's all relationships. And I'm sure, and you're going to tell us, but I have a feeling you're going to say, literally, it's about learning about the relationship this is with yourself out in the world, right? So tell us a little bit about relationships and the class for anyone who might be curious.
We have 2 kids. 2 dogs. And,
lots of relationships.
Yeah, exactly. So and an art thing. And so I'm always extremely busy, and I'm always having to work with people. And Sacred Wisdom School is nice because people recognize it as sort of a sacred space that we're all coming together to grow together. But that doesn't exist in the web design branding world. So company has their deadlines and they need their stuff, and it's got to be perfect, So all the time, there's nothing but stresses and pressures. All the time, there's nothing but responsibilities, and et cetera. Keeping up a house alone with 2 kids is almost impossible, actually, So I think that's really, really important, because such confusion's there with spirituality and the idea that, yes, you can go sit in a rainforest somewhere or travel off to Thailand and some island and feel great. But then comes your life, And so the problem that most people face, it seems to be a global problem. It seems to just be something that we're unconscious about at this time period. I think as we evolve a little bit more, it'll be something that will fade off very fast, actually, is that life will challenge us. And there'll be a lot of situations where, as you perceive the situation a certain way, you end up getting hurt. It's all perception, though, right? Like you really think the other person hurt you.
Is causing the pain.
Yep. And so the problem that we face, that I think everyone faces, is that the mind doesn't now know what to do with that pain. So it holds on to that pain. So the pain's stuck in the body. Now you see that same person the next day, and it now triggers this pain that was never dealt with. And this is why you now don't like that person, or you still like them kind of, but they got a big mark on their record with you. You have sort of a chip on your shoulder to them slightly, and you'll still act very fake, acting like it's not there, and you're still friends, but you walk away and you watch yourself still judge them somehow or another. This simple thing of life putting you in some kind of circumstance and you getting hurt, and just the most natural thing is to move away from pain, you could say, is what is causing all the problems in all of our relationships. Because if you look at animals, two dogs will be playing, one steals the other one's bone, is chewing on. That dog gets upset and nips and bites and jumps on it and threatens it, grabs the bone and runs off. The other dog is yelping and runs off with his tail between his legs. You see them 20 minutes later, and it's as though it never happened.
They're sleeping together.
Yeah, it's just simply not a part of their reality. So that's the natural state. The natural state is that instead of running away from the pain, if we face the pain, if we process the pain, if we make it a priority to heal that pain inside, as hard it is to understand or believe, you won't even remember that person hurt you the next day. It won't even be in your reality. Yes, you could probably really try and say, yeah, yesterday I tell you I got triggered, but I healed it. And there's zero concern. Like it makes no sense at all. So here we are, not knowing this, not knowing how to do this on any level. And we are completely entrenched in relationships. Husbands and wives come together, they have children, or any couple has children. So they have this huge responsibility to stay together. And all the time, because you're living around each other, you're triggering the heck out of each other. And if you're not processing it, it's all getting stuck inside. So your relationship is dying by the day. And this is why after 2 or 3 years, the pressure is so great inside that it makes only sense to try to find some kind of relief outside the relationship. Whether you want to leave the relationship, find somebody else, you need something to somehow feel human, because you're like a pent-up volcano inside. So the whole purpose of this course, and purpose of a lot of things that we teach, is helping a person get all the way down to that fundamental level and learn sort of the rules to the game of reality, as we like to say, that there's just, if you see everything as an opportunity to heal and grow, and you have the strength of taking on that task of finally healing it as it comes up, then all your relationships flower. They heal and they flower, and you as a human being flower. That's the Prema, my wife. She's an extremely strong woman, very, very evolved person. She started her spiritual journey working with an awakened master at the age of 13. Wow. And she took it completely serious. And so she's really, really flowered in her space. And she's extremely strong as a woman. She holds nothing back, has no filters. She completely shares things exactly as they are. On top of it, she's Latin. So if you know what that means, she's got the Latin fire going on. So point being is that there's no way we could possibly stay married together if we weren't working on ourselves, because It's not like there's a submissive one in the relationship. There's no one in this relationship between us that can keep quiet. So I'm very strong myself, and she's very strong herself. And so all the time, we're just simply speaking raw what is going on, And it's just that there's the single greatest priority in our lives on the internal world is staying completely and utterly present in the heart and being vulnerable. So whatever comes up, we welcome it in, we stay with it, we embrace it, we don't judge it, we don't see it as right or wrong. We allow ourselves to experience it. And it gets intense sometimes. There's a lot of things working out. And so we stay with it. So every day our relationship is anew. I can't remember the last time we've had any carryover from the day before. I can't remember that. So there'll be times where we trigger each other and it gets really, really intense for an hour or two. But because we're both allowing ourselves to process, that it heals, and we're right back to being like kids again with each other. And so I would have to say that's that's the responsibility. If an individual takes on that journey of responsibility, they'll watch their entire reality change. Their life becomes very, very miraculous and very heart-centered and very grace-filled when a person heals what comes up, stays present as much as possible. So our course on relationships is about a person learning the responsibility of self-healing and understanding why the things show up in their lives the way they do, so they can not be reactive towards it, but welcome it inside to heal.
Well, and something that I've recognized in my journey to self is that every person that comes into my existence is a reflection of myself. And so if I'm triggered by an external person, then I created that, actually, even though they're doing the thing. And so like you were talking about when you go to sleep and then you wake up anew, the truth is that you're recognizing that when it's your responsibility, then it's your job to shift. You don't wait for your partner to shift so that you can feel better. You shift and you feel better, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's beautiful when you realize that. And it's not just your love partner, it's your father, your mother, your neighbor, your gas attendant, your boss. I mean, it's everybody, everyone that walks into your existence, you are basically is being manifested as a part of your personal evolution and growth. And that's a very empowering place to be living from, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it feels great. So this is a good time. So if people are interested in your courses, how do they find you? How can they connect with you in community? What are you out there on the internet for anyone who hears this message and wants to find you? How do they find you?
You can just go to sacredwisdom.school. Also sacredwisdomschool.com. Either one goes to the same place. But sacredwisdom.school is our website, and we can see all our stuff. And we're on social media as well, but all that's available on the website.
Is it the same name if they search on Facebook or Instagram?
Yep, Sacred Wisdom School. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a YouTube channel too?
We do. Yep. Okay. Sacred Wisdom School. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good place to go watch videos and such.
Yeah.
Do you have any words that you want to leave the audience with from Douglas Bentley?
Yeah. I would just say that the greatest gift you can give yourself and all of life is to heal your heart and live in it. And it's something that you have direct access to and doesn't require external factors. And it's the greatest gift you can give yourself because you discover the love you're seeking. You feel at one with all of life. And living inside the heart, you'll be completely in tune with the flow of life. Everything becomes auspicious and miraculous. And it's right in front of you. It's just, you just have to bring your awareness out of the head into the chest,
Mm-hmm. And I call that freedom. I love the idea of freedom. And that's a theme that has run through my whole entire life is I've been seeking freedom, but this is the freedom, the personal empowerment that, creates freedom for any individual. So thank you so much. One of the things that I've done on my episodes, I don't know if you listen to any of them, but at the end, I like to, I call it mirror reflections. And you don't have to say anything. It's a gift that I give to you for being on my podcast. And I just want to take a moment and, honor you and mirror back who you are being in the world based on what I've received. So from knowing you, the little that I do, and for the years before. So Douglas, you are a beautiful light in the world. Your purpose and mission of helping empower and create freedom for people is a beautiful journey for you to be taking so that others may find what you have found as well. So you're sharing it, and it's just wonderful to know that people like you are out there as a source for people who need guidance and who need assistance and who need help. And I honor you for being that person out in the world. And I just thank you again for being on this episode. And I hope a lot of people find it so that they can find their paths to their healing and their freedom. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here.
You're welcome. So have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon online.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. We've reached the end of this episode. If you'd like to continue with this inspirational journey, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. If you are a self-proclaimed oneness junkie, get yourself a t-shirt and spread the message of oneness in your community. And finally, if you have a story to share or know someone that should be a guest on this podcast, contact us at onenessjunkie.com. See you next time. And remember, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. Compassion starts with you and me.